Manoa murders. This tragic story happened in Manoa, a quiet neighborhood in Honolulu where people usually feel safe. Paris Oda, age 46, lived there with his wife Naoko and their 3 children, 17-year-old Sakurako, 12-year-old Orion, and 10-year-old Nana. They looked like a normal, happy family. Paris worked as a chiropractor, and his wife sometimes helped at his clinic. Neighbors said the family was friendly and often decorated their house for Christmas. But in late 2023, things began to feel different. The family stopped putting up decorations. At work, Paris was no longer friendly or cheerful. He barely smiled and often seemed lost in thought. Some of his patients even asked his staff what was wrong with him. Paris was drowning in money problems. He owed a lot in taxes, was late on car and loan payments, and his clinic was struggling. He tried selling his truck and even a treadmill for extra cash. He started driving for Uber because he did not have enough clients. He also talked to a realtor about selling their home. A relative said that Paris felt ashamed and scared of what would happen if he could not fix everything. He even told his wife he was thinking about ending his life. She tried to stay hopeful and suggested moving to Japan to start over, but Paris said he was too tired and done. Then came March 10th, 2024. Around 2 to 2:30 a.m., a tenant who rented a room in the Oda home woke up to loud, panicked screaming. The screams came from right outside her door. Terrified, she locked herself inside. Then she saw something even worse, a dark pool of blood slowly spreading under her door and across the floor. She was too scared to open the door or call out. When morning came, she climbed out of her window and called 911. Police arrived at 8:34 a.m. but left because everything looked quiet and no one answered the door. The tenant called again and officers returned at 9:15 a.m. This time, she met them outside and told them what she saw. Police went around the back of the house and forced their way inside. Right away, they saw the body of Paris Oda lying in a hallway in a large pool of blood. He had stab wounds to his chest. A kitchen knife was still in his right hand. But the horror did not end there. In the first bedroom, officers found 17-year-old Sakurako on the floor covered in blood. She had many stab wounds on her body and legs. In the next room, they found 12-year-old Orion in his bed with stab wounds to his chest. In the master bedroom, they found 10-year-old Nana face down with deep wounds cut into her back. Behind the door lay their mother, 48-year-old Naoko, also stabbed many times. All 4 victims had defensive wounds on their hands and wrists, which means they fought hard to stay alive. They tried to protect themselves, but Paris overpowered them. Medical experts said their injuries were life-threatening and likely killed them within hours. Police confirmed that Paris attacked his family sometime between 2 and 2:30 a.m., matching exactly what the tenant heard. The community was shocked and heartbroken. Flowers, letters, and candles were left outside the home, even though many did not know the family well. Teachers and counselors at the children's schools helped students deal with the news. Many people said the family always seemed normal and kind, and they never imagined something like this could happen. In the end, the reason behind the tragedy came down to crushing money problems, deep fear, and a man who felt trapped. It does not excuse what happened, but it shows how much pain he was hiding. Sadly, no one knew how bad things had become until it was too late. The Lopez Cohen murder case began in a quiet quarry in the Philippines, where a shallow, hidden grave held a terrible truth. On July 6, 2024, investigators dug up the bodies of a Filipino beauty queen and her Israeli partner. This discovery ended a desperate 2-week search for them. The couple had gone to what they thought was a normal business meeting, but instead they were met with sudden and deadly violence. Their car was later found burned on the side of a road, clearly set on fire on purpose to destroy clues. But even fire could not hide everything. Geneva Lopez was only 26. She was born in Pampanga and worked as a model and businesswoman. She also won a beauty pageant title in 2023 and was preparing to compete again. Her life looked bright and full of promise, which made her violent death even more heartbreaking. Her partner, 37-year-old Yitzhak Cohen, was an Israeli who had lived in the Philippines for 7 years. He worked in real estate and planned to marry Geneva. June 21st, 2024, was the last time anyone saw them alive. That morning, Yitzhak spoke to his sister, but said nothing about the meeting he and Geneva were going to attend in Kapas, Tarlac. It seemed to him like a normal business meeting. They were planning to check a piece of farmland they wanted to buy. The meeting was with a middleman named Michelangelo Guang, who also owed Yitzhak money. But the couple never returned home. The next day, June 22nd, Geneva's sister reported them missing. Later that day, their gray Nissan Terra was found along a highway, completely burned. Inside the blackened remains of the car, investigators found what was left of Geneva's documents. The destruction was clearly meant to remove all evidence. For 2 long weeks, their families waited for answers. Those answers finally came on July 6. A witness named Jess surrendered to the police. He worked as a driver for the suspects. Jess told investigators that he saw the couple's dead bodies in the back of the SUV he had been ordered to drive. He also said he was forced to set the car on fire. Most importantly, he showed police the exact place where the bodies were buried. When investigators dug at the quarry, they found the decomposing bodies of Geneva and Yitzhak. Both had gunshot wounds. Their families could only identify them by their clothing and personal items. Police later learned that the motive was a fight over land and money. Guang, the man they met with, was a former police officer. Years earlier, he had pawned a piece of land to Geneva. When he tried to take it back to sell it to someone else, she refused. This seems to have sparked the attack. Police believe the meeting was a planned ambush. Geneva and Yitzhak believed they were simply going to a meeting. They had no idea they were being led into a deadly trap. Even though arrests have been made, full justice is not yet complete. 4 of the 5 suspects had been arrested, but 1 is still missing. The families still wait for the last suspect to be caught, hoping that someday they will finally have peace. Murders of Albert Alfonso and Paul Longworth. This story begins with a simple webcam call in 2012. Albert Alfonso, 50, and his partner Paul Longworth, 59, were a couple in London who liked chatting with people online. One day, they met a 23-year-old man from Colombia named Yost Moscara. He was friendly and talkative, and the 3 of them quickly became close. They spoke every day, and this went on for almost 10 years. After a long time, Albert and Paul decided to fly to Colombia to meet Yost in person. When they arrived, they got along even better than they expected. Their friendship turned into a sexual relationship, and all of them seemed happy with it. When Albert and Paul went back to London, they stayed in touch with Yost. Later, they invited him to stay with them in their flat in Shepherd's Bush. They even offered to pay for everything. Yost accepted and came to England. When Yost arrived, the 3 of them went back to having intimate time together. Albert often filmed these moments. Paul joined sometimes, and sometimes he did not. Yost acted like everything was normal, but he had another plan. While staying at the flat, he secretly looked through Albert's banking information, passwords, and even checked how much the flat was worth. He was preparing to steal from them and to kill. One morning, Paul spoke to a neighbor through the window. It seemed like an ordinary day. Inside, Albert was at work, and Paul was alone with Yost. Around lunchtime, Yost closed the curtains and searched something online for the last time before the attack. Then he picked up a hammer from the flat and walked up behind Paul. Without any warning, he hit Paul in the head again and again, 9 times in total. His skull was smashed and he died. Yost then hid Paul's body under his own bed. Later that day, he met Albert at the gym as if nothing had happened. Albert had no idea Paul's body was only a few feet away. That night, Yost seduced Albert like usual. Albert set up his camera to film the intimate moments, not knowing he was about to record his own death. During the act, Yost grabbed a knife he had hidden earlier. He suddenly stabbed Albert again and again, 22 times. Albert screamed while Yost laughed. The whole attack was caught on camera. Yost tried to move money from Albert's bank account, but the transfer failed. He did manage to take £900 from an ATM. Then he returned to the flat to clean up. He removed both men's heads, and over the course of the night, further separated the remains in a controlled manner. The next day, he bought a chest freezer and put the two heads inside it, along with other body parts that did not fit into two suitcases. 2 days later, he hired a van and traveled to Bristol with the suitcases. He planned to throw them off the Clifton suspension bridge, believing they would be lost in the river below. But the suitcases were too heavy. When bridge staff saw blood leaking out, they became suspicious. Yost panicked, ran away, and left the bags behind. Police arrived and found human remains inside the suitcases. A huge search began. For 2 days, Yost hid around Bristol, but officers eventually tracked his phone and caught him at the train station. He was arrested for the murders of Albert and Paul. Yost claimed in court that Albert killed Paul and that he stabbed Albert only in fear. But the evidence showed he had planned everything. He was found guilty of both murders and sentenced to life in prison. Prosper family murders. This is the story of a teenager named Nicholas Prosper, who lived with his mother and 2 younger siblings in a small apartment in Luton. From the outside, their family looked normal, but Nicholas spent almost all of his time alone in his room. He was quiet, kept to himself, and did not talk much. Over time, he became more and more isolated. Nobody knew how dark his private world had become. Nicholas spent many hours on the internet every day. He watched extremely violent videos and looked at disturbing images, including pictures of murder victims and school shooting reports. He also talked online about wanting to become famous for violence. He looked up details about attacks like Sandy Hook and Columbine and studied how the killers carried out their plans. He also developed a strange and unhealthy obsession with Clementine, a child character from the Walking Dead game. He talked about her as if she were real. He said he was chosen by her and felt he had to protect her. When his sister played the game and chose to kill certain characters in front of Clementine, Nicholas became angry and made a video saying her face would be mutilated further than necessary. This showed how far he had fallen into fantasy. By 2023, Nicholas stopped going to school and rarely left his room. His mother tried to get him help, and doctors thought he might have autism, but he refused all support. Meanwhile, his obsession with violence grew. He began planning a mass attack on his old primary school. His goal was to kill at least 34 people so he could break a past death toll. He even called the school pretending to be a parent to learn their daily schedule. He saved photos of teachers and students and drew maps of the classrooms. On one map, he wrote the words, "Kill all." He wanted to carry out the attack in September on Friday 13th, 2024. To do this, he forged a firearms license and bought a shotgun online. He also designed a black and yellow outfit to wear during the attack. On the night before the planned massacre, Nicholas stayed awake researching shotgun wounds and looking at violent photos. Early in the morning, he packed the gun and ammunition into a bag, but something unexpected happened. His mother woke up early and saw something that alarmed her. At that moment, Nicholas snapped. He raised the shotgun and shot his mother in the face at close range. He placed a book called How to Kill Your Family on her legs. His 13-year-old sister Giselle woke up from the noise. She walked toward the hallway, confused and scared. Nicholas saw her, fired at her, and she ran into the living room to hide. He followed her and shot her in the right eye, killing her. His brother Kyle tried to fight back. He grabbed a kitchen knife. Nicholas shot Kyle in the chest, then took the knife from him and stabbed him more than 100 times in the face, head, neck, body, and limbs. After Kyle dragged himself toward their mother's body, Nicholas shot him in the head. Nicholas then left the apartment and hid in bushes nearby. He posted his strange Clementine video online. After a while, he decided his plan was ruined and walked toward a police car. Officers saw blood on his hands, clothes, and glasses. He calmly turned himself in. Police later found his shotgun, 33 cartridges, his drawings, and his online searches. Nicholas admitted to planning both the family murders and the school attack. He also admitted he had planned to assault his sister before killing her. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 49 years, though many people want his sentence to be extended. Hunt family murders. On the evening of July 9, 2024, in the quiet town of Bushy in Hertfordshire, a terrible crime took place. A man named Kyle Clifford, aged 26, carried a crossbow hidden under a white sheet as he left the Hunt family's home. For hours before that moment, he had been inside the house carrying out a plan he had prepared for weeks. His goal was to kill 3 women from the same family. At 6:58 p.m., 28-year-old Hannah Hunt called emergency services using her mother's phone. She said he shot us and told them the man inside was her sister Louise's ex-boyfriend Kyle. When police and paramedics arrived 12 minutes later, they found 61-year-old mother Carol and 25-year-old daughter Louise already dead. Hannah was still alive but badly hurt and could not be saved. Hannah and Louise had been shot with crossbow bolts, and their mother Carol had been stabbed to death. The family's father, John Hunt, and another daughter, Amy, survived only because they were not home. The murders shocked not only the town but the whole country, especially because John Hunt was a well-known BBC horse racing commentator. He had been working at a racecourse that day. The last message he sent to his family, asking if everything was okay, was seen not by his daughter but by her killer. Kyle Clifford ran away right after the attack. Police knew who he was because Hannah had managed to send a text to her boyfriend saying, "Kyle is here. He's tying us up. Police now." Officers searched for Kyle across London and Hertfordshire. They warned the public not to approach him because he was still believed to be armed with a crossbow. The next day, July 10th, Kyle was found in Lavender Hill Cemetery in Enfield. Police moved in from all angles. Before they reached him, Kyle shot himself once with the crossbow. He lived but was left paralyzed from the chest down. Investigators soon learned how carefully Kyle had planned everything. 1 week before the murders, Louise had broken up with him after a long, unhealthy relationship. Kyle had tried to manipulate her into staying, but she refused. 4 days later, he began searching online for crossbows. Then he bought a powerful compound crossbow, a set of bolts, duct tape, and a large kitchen knife. He also bought 2 cans of petrol, possibly planning to burn the house, but later changed his mind. On July 9th, at about 1 p.m., he drove to the Hunt's home and told Carol he was returning Louise's things. Inside the house, sometime around 2:45 p.m., he stabbed Carol to death. Louise was working in her dog grooming shed in the garden and did not know her mother had been killed. Later in the afternoon, Kyle tied Louise with duct tape. He stayed in the house with her for around 3 hours. Shortly before 7 p.m., he shot Louise with a crossbow bolt, killing her. When Hannah came home, she walked in and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Moments later, she screamed, and Kyle shot her as well. He later admitted to the murders. A jury also found him guilty of assaulting Louise during the hours she was tied up. He received 3 whole-life prison sentences, meaning he will never be released. Louise and Hannah's father, John, later spoke in court. He said Kyle would never find peace and would face the screams of hell for what he did. Isla Bell was a 19-year-old woman from Melbourne. She was gentle, creative, and close to her friends and family. She lived in a small share house in Brunswick, studied, worked casual jobs, and enjoyed quiet cafes and music. Nothing in her life suggested she was in danger. On Friday, October 4, 2024, just before sunset, she left her home and told a friend she would only be gone for a few hours. CCTV later showed her walking along a nearby street wearing jeans, a light jacket, and carrying a canvas tote bag. After that, her phone stopped working. She sent no texts, made no calls, and there were no bank or rideshare records. On Sunday, her parents filed a missing person report. Police followed normal procedures, but because Isla was 19, the case was not treated as urgent. For nearly 6 weeks, police checked cameras and phone data, but every lead led nowhere. Then, new CCTV footage appeared. A security camera in St. Kilda East, far from where Isla was last seen, showed her entering an apartment building with a 53-year-old man named Murat, someone she had met online. They went into the lift together and were never seen coming back down. Neighbors later told police they heard a loud argument that night, objects falling and then silence, but no one had called it in. Court documents later revealed chilling details from the night of October 7th. At 12:43 a.m., CCTV caught what looked like a fight through a small gap in Murat's kitchen window. The footage allegedly showed Isla's head being whipped around as she was hit. She fell to the ground, and Murat struck her while she lay there. Her head appeared to rise, only to be pushed back down by his arm. Police say this was when she was killed. After the attack, Murat spent days cleaning his apartment. He allegedly placed her body in a fridge, wrapping it in plastic and black tape. With the help of 57-year-old Ayal Yaf, he moved the fridge across Melbourne. Neighbors first noticed a bad smell when the fridge was in Hampton. On November 18th, a man found the fridge and removed its wrapping. A bag fell out, and thinking it contained animal remains, he threw it in a residential rubbish bin. Workers at the Dandenong South Waste Facility later found the bag and discovered badly decomposed human remains. Pieces of clothing and a bracelet matched what Isla had worn the night she disappeared. DNA tests confirmed it was her. The autopsy could not give a clear cause of death. The body had been in a freezer, then crushed in rubbish trucks. There were fractures to her ribs and chest, signs of blunt force trauma, and traces of sedatives and alcohol. But experts could not tell which injuries happened before death and which happened afterward. Murat was charged with murder and Yaf with helping hide the body. Murat admitted moving the remains, but denies killing her. Both men appeared in Melbourne Magistrates' Court. For Isla's family, the ordeal was devastating. Her mother, Justine Spokes, made emotional appeals through social media and press conferences. Friends and family spread posters across the city. Vigils were held where people lit candles and left flowers. Her family said simply, "Our daughter deserved help, not to be hidden." Kolkata murder. This is the story of what happened to a young woman doctor at RG Kar Medical College in Kolkata, India. The doctor was 31 years old and was working a very long 36-hour duty on 8th August. She spoke to her parents around 11 a.m. and told them she was fine. That was the last time they ever heard her voice. Late that night, around 2 a.m., she went with 2 junior doctors to get something to eat. After they finished, the others left, and she chose to rest for a while in the seminar room inside the hospital. Around 7:30 a.m., hospital staff went looking for her. When they opened the seminar room, they found her body. Her parents got a call saying their daughter was sick. 15 minutes later, they got another call saying she had died by suicide. When the parents reached the college at around 1 p.m., they were not allowed to see her body for almost 3 hours. Only after students protested were they finally allowed. Students and parents felt something was very wrong. They believed this was not a suicide, but a serious crime. A magistrate inquiry was requested, and many injuries were reported on her body. Students also questioned why the post-mortem was done inside the same college instead of another medical center, which is the normal rule. The same evening, the family was pressured to cremate her quickly. Many students were shocked when the college principal told the family that their daughter had mental health problems, even though there was no proof of that. Soon, the news spread through the college. Students held protests on 10th of August, which pushed the police to change the case from suicide to assault and murder. On the 11th of August, a suspect named Sanjay Roy was arrested. He was a civic police volunteer. CCTV cameras showed him entering the area near the seminar room around 3 a.m. and leaving about half an hour later. His headphones were found in the building, and they connected to his phone, which made the police suspicious. He later admitted to the crime, but many students felt this happened too fast and did not answer all questions. On the 12th of August, the principal resigned after pressure from students. But only 9 hours later, the government appointed him as principal of another college, but students from that college blocked him from entering. On 13th August, the case reached the High Court. Judges questioned the police about why the parents were misinformed, why they were kept waiting, and why the principal's statement was not taken. That evening, the case was handed over to the Central Bureau of Investigation. Soon after, students noticed construction work happening near the crime scene. They feared someone was trying to remove or change evidence, so they protested again. On the 14th of August, the night before Independence Day, a large group of outside men came to the college and attacked students and doctors. They also tried to damage the crime scene. Many doctors called the police, but no one came, even though the police station was very close. This made students believe that powerful people might be involved. The case soon spread across India. Doctors and students in many states held protests. They demanded better safety for doctors, stronger laws to protect them, and proper facilities like safe restrooms in hospitals. People also say this case is not only about a doctor, but about the safety of all women in the country. Philippine Lenoir de Carlan murder. Paris is often called the City of Light, a place of romance, history, and dreams. But behind the glittering Eiffel Tower and the charming cafes, the city hides a darker side. On the night of September 21st, 2024, a young woman named Philippine Lenoir de Carlan walked into the Bois de Boulogne Park. She had big dreams and a life full of promise. But that night, a predator was waiting, a man who should never have been free, a criminal released from prison far too soon. The Bois de Boulogne Park is beautiful during the day with green trees and winding paths, but at night it becomes a different place, dark, quiet, and lonely. In the weeks before her death, Philippine had told a friend that she sometimes felt uneasy walking home alone. Strange encounters had been reported in Bois de Boulogne, women feeling watched, followed by unknown men. But no one could know that one of these encounters would end in horror. The man who would kill her, Taha, had a dark history. Born in Morocco in 1999, he grew up in a troubled environment. Moving to France at 14, he showed early signs of cruelty and manipulation. By 2019, he committed a violent assault on a woman. He was caught, sentenced to 7 years in prison, but only served 3. He was supposed to be deported to Morocco, but bureaucratic delays let him remain free, and that freedom would cost a young woman her life. On the night of September 21st, Philippine walked into the park. By 11:40 p.m., her phone stopped transmitting. What happened next was fast and brutal. Taha attacked her, leaving her body hidden near a wooded path. Investigators said it was clear he wanted her to suffer. Taha disappeared after the murder, but was eventually tracked to Geneva, Switzerland, and arrested. Philippine's murder was more than a crime. It was a failure of the system. A convicted predator had been free, a deportation never enforced, and now an innocent young woman was dead. The public demanded answers. After months of investigation and public outrage, Taha was sentenced to life in prison. For some, justice was served. For others, no punishment could bring Philippine back. The Baja murders. In April 2024, 3 friends went on a surfing trip to Baja California, Mexico, and never came home. Australian brothers Callum and Jake Robinson, along with their American friend Jack Carter Rode, had traveled south from the U.S. border in search of a secluded beach for surfing and camping. What began as a fun adventure ended in tragedy. Callum Robinson, almost 33, was a big, kind man who played professional lacrosse and loved the ocean. He had type 1 diabetes but managed it carefully while staying active. His younger brother Jake was a gentle, compassionate man and a future doctor who loved traveling and helping others. Their friend Carter from the U.S. was an athlete and devoted family man who loved soccer, surfing, and adventure. All 3 were well loved and respected by friends and family. The trip started like any holiday. They visited beaches along the Baja coast, taking photos and sharing moments on social media. Callum had recently met a local photographer named Randy, who suggested a hidden beach called La Cana, south of Tijuana and Ensenada. It was secluded, untouched, and perfect for surfing, but getting there required driving through dangerous territory. Randy had planned to join them but canceled at the last minute, leaving the three friends to go alone with a map he had drawn for them. On April 27th, they disappeared. They never arrived at their Airbnb in Rosarito, and soon their loved ones grew worried. Callum's diabetes meant any delay could be dangerous, and their sudden silence on social media and phones alarmed friends and family. Mexican authorities were alerted, and a search began. When police reached their last known campsite near La Cana, the scene was horrifying. There were bloodstains and marks suggesting heavy objects had been dragged. Tents matching Callum's and Carter's were burned, and their white pickup truck was later found 4 miles away, also burned. A hidden and deep well nearby contained the bodies of all 3 men. Each had been shot in the head. It was clear their deaths were violent and deliberate. Authorities quickly arrested 3 suspects: Jesus Gerardo, his brother Christian Alejandro, and Gerardo's girlfriend Ari Gasal. Gerardo, known to have a history of crime, reportedly admitted to killing the 3 men. The robbery of the pickup truck's tires had escalated into murder when the friends resisted. Ari had tried to flee, but was caught with drugs and linked to the crime through Carter's phone. Investigators noted the crime looked planned and organized, suggesting the killers may have had connections to local gangs or cartels. News of the murders devastated families and shocked Australia, the US, and Mexico. Friends and fellow surfers held memorials in the ocean, placing flowers in the water. Murder of Hannah McGuire. At 3:43 a.m., Debbie McGuire's phone buzzed beside her bed. Still groggy, she reached for it, assuming it was a harmless, late-night notification or one of her kids checking in after a night out. Instead, she found a message from her daughter, Hannah, one that immediately tightened her chest. The tone was alarming. Hannah spoke of feeling overwhelmed, of believing she'd made the wrong choices, of trying to cope but failing. Debbie bolted upright in bed. None of it sounded right. She fired back frantic replies, urging Hannah to tell her where she was, insisting she couldn't return to the situation she'd been struggling with, begging her to stay safe. But no responses came. By morning, smoke would be rising from the scrubland outside Barat, leading authorities to Hannah. What haunted Debbie afterward was how wrong those messages felt. Her shorthand, her emojis, the little imperfections that made her texting unmistakably hers. These messages were polished, formal. Something about them felt disturbingly out of place. Despite her fear, Debbie called and texted 23 times, begging her to answer. By dawn, she drove to the house Hannah had once shared with her ex, Lachlan Young. She told him about the messages, asked if he had seen her. He said he was worried too. Unsure what to believe, Debbie decided to go to the police. The missing person report was filed just after sunrise. But by then, emergency services were already dealing with something far worse. Around 5 a.m., a vehicle fire was reported deep in bushland southwest of Barrett. Firefighters found a Mitsubishi Triton melted and twisted by flames. Inside, partially hidden under the dashboard, was a body. It was Hannah McGuire. Hannah had a new job she loved, working with children at Delic Primary. She was a netball player, a friend, a daughter. She was just weeks from finishing her teaching degree. She wasn't planning to give up, but strange events surfaced. $5,000 was transferred from her account to Lachlan's, $2,000 to her parents, just before sunrise. Police began treating her phone messages as evidence against someone else. Hannah had returned to Lachlan's home to collect belongings and tie up loose ends. A second intervention order had been issued after he attacked her car weeks earlier. This time, she went alone. Investigators later estimated Hannah died between 1:50 a.m. and 2:53 a.m. on April 5th. Her parents were asleep, her friends unaware. For almost 3 years, Hannah had tried to leave Lachlan. He was violent, controlling, and often drank too much. Friends and family watched her fear grow, even helping her regain access to her own house once. Despite the danger, Hannah had been building a new life. She had spoken to a lawyer, separated her finances, and was stepping into a fresh chapter. On April 4th, she spent her last hours laughing with her netball team, sharing pizza at a pub. During the trial, Lachlan's story started to crumble. He claimed he didn't know where Hannah was and feigned shock at the money transfers. Witness Benjamin O'Keefe testified that Lachlan had plotted to roofie Hannah, put her in the driver's seat, and crash her car to make it look like an accident. Lachlan had even planned to torch the car after her death. Texts, money transfers, and a deliberately lit fire using a blowtorch all pointed to premeditation. On July 18, 2025, 8 days into the trial, Lachlan Young finally confessed in court. Guilty, he said. He admitted he had murdered Hannah and staged the car fire to cover it up. The courtroom erupted. Hannah's family wept and embraced, finally hearing the truth from the person who had taken their daughter. Killing of Mahogany Jackson. Mahogany Jackson was born on April 29, 2003, to Moses Jackson Jr. and Gail Maddox. From the very start, she was known as a loving and caring person. Her smile could light up even the darkest room. As she grew up, Mahogany went to school in the Birmingham City school system. Later, she graduated from Job Corps. By 2024, she was 20 years old and had a daughter who became her whole world. Life had thrown challenges her way, but Mahogany always stood strong. She was happy, self-aware, and had a strong personality. Friends described her as kind but sometimes too trusting. February 2024 began like any other month for Mahogany. She went to work, spent time with family and friends, and lived her life. But at the end of February, tragedy struck her family, shocking not only their community, but people across the country. On Sunday, February 25, 2024, around 8 a.m., Mahogany sent a text to her mother. She wrote that she was being held hostage at Serenity Apartments, Unit 3 in southwest Birmingham. She included her exact location and instructions not to call her, but to call the police instead. By 11 a.m., the police received the message and went to the apartment. When they arrived, Mahogany was gone. They searched the area but could not find her. Hours passed, and by evening, there was still no sign of her. Word spread through the community, and everyone who knew Mahogany was hoping for her safe return. Early on February 26, at around 2:19 a.m., a passerby called the police from the area of 17th Street Southwest and Laurel Avenue. They had found a body under an abandoned mattress in a place known locally as an illegal dumping ground. The body was Mahogany Jackson. She had been shot in the head, and her missing person case became a homicide investigation. The authorities soon received a witness report identifying the people responsible and providing videos of what happened before Mahogany's body was found. 5 videos showed attacks on Mahogany, and with this evidence, the police quickly arrested 7 suspects. Later, an 8th person, Irana Robinson, was arrested. The attack began at Brandon Pope's home, where Mahogany arrived with some of the suspects, people she thought were her friends. She was attacked repeatedly. In a video obtained by authorities, she was taken to Serenity Apartments, where the attacks continued. She was then transported to a remote area called Dead Man's Road. When they realized Mahogany had contacted her family, the attackers tried to force her to give them her phone passcode. She could not, and that led to her being killed. Frances Harris, also known as Ace, fired the fatal shot to her head. Afterward, they left her body under a mattress. The motive was allegedly that Mahogany had taken a firearm from one of the suspects. Mahogany's family was devastated. They had to bury their daughter, knowing the people who killed her were people she trusted. Her mother and sister spoke about how brave Mahogany had been. Thanks to her sending her location, the police were able to arrest the suspects, who now face serious charges. Even worse, Mahogany had a young daughter, now in the care of her grandmother. The community mourned, while social media spread rumors that her family was somehow to blame. But none of that mattered. Mahogany's death was never justified. Her story is a tragic reminder to cherish every moment with loved ones. Mahogany Jackson's light was taken too soon, but her bravery and love will not be forgotten. Cult Murders by Chad Daybell. Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell were at the center of one of the strangest and most shocking modern-day true crime stories, full of cult beliefs, deaths, and disappearances. Lori was born in 1973 in California. She had a normal childhood and grew up with 2 brothers and 3 sisters. At 19, she married her first husband, Nelson Yans, but they divorced a year later. She remarried in 1995 to William Lagoya, had a son named Colby, but divorced again in 1998. In 2001, she married Joseph Ryan and had a daughter, Tylee, but they divorced in 2004. Lori's brother Alex even attacked Joseph with a taser after she claimed Joseph was abusive. Lori was known for being attractive, charismatic, and adventurous, but also impatient and selfish. In 2005, Lori met Charles Vallow, a hardworking man from Arizona. He had 2 children from a previous marriage, Nicholas and Zachary. Lori and Charles married in 2006, blending their families. They later adopted Charles's grandnephew, JJ. In 2014, they moved to Hawaii with Tylee and JJ to open a juice bar, which failed. By 2016, they returned to Arizona. While in Hawaii, Lori became obsessed with a series of religious books by Chad Daybell, who claimed to have special knowledge of life and death. She believed strongly in these teachings, which separated people into light and dark categories. In 2018, Lori attended a religious event and met Chad Daybell. Chad told her they had been married in past lives, and the two began communicating secretly. Lori became obsessed with Chad, while her marriage with Charles fell apart. She started believing she was an eternal spirit meant to lead a special group of followers. By 2019, Lori's behavior became more extreme. She called some people zombies or followers of Satan, and argued frequently with Charles. On January 31, 2019, Charles returned from a business trip to find Lori, Tylee, and JJ gone. His truck was missing, his house was empty, and $35,000 had been withdrawn from his account. Police were contacted, but they did not take action, and Lori disappeared for 58 days. On July 11, 2019, Lori's brother Alex shot and killed Charles in their home during an argument, claiming self-defense. Lori showed no sadness and even hosted a pool party hours later. Afterward, Lori, Tylee, and JJ moved to Rexburg, Idaho, where Chad lived. In September 2019, Lori took her children to Yellowstone National Park, and that was the last time Tylee was seen. JJ was last seen on September 17. Lori never reported them missing and soon began storing children's belongings in storage units, often visiting with Chad. On October 9, 2019, Chad's wife Tammy was shot at in her driveway by a masked man with a paintball gun but survived. 10 days later, Chad reported that Tammy had died in her sleep. Police ruled the death natural, even though Chad refused an autopsy. Soon after, Lori and Chad married in Hawaii. They lied about the children's existence to neighbors and claimed Tylee had died years earlier. Authorities began investigating, and Lori was eventually arrested on February 20, 2020. However, the locations of Tylee and JJ remained unknown for months. On June 9, 2020, police searching Chad's property found human remains of both children near his barn. Chad was arrested trying to flee the area. Lori Vallow Daybell was convicted in May 2023 of murdering her 2 children, Tylee Ryan and Joshua J.J. Vallow, and conspiring to murder her husband's then-wife. She received 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Chad Daybell was found guilty in May 2024 of murdering Tylee, JJ, and his own wife at the time, Tammy Daybell. He was sentenced to death on June 1, 2024. Bareilly serial killings. In July 2024, the police in Bareilly, a city in Uttar Pradesh, found the body of a woman in a village. At first, they thought it was just a normal murder, but when they looked closely, they realized it was similar to other murders that had happened in 2023. These earlier killings had scared women in almost 90 villages, making them think twice before leaving their homes. Police began to suspect that a serial killer had returned after 7 months. The first murder that drew attention happened on June 5, 2023. A 50-year-old woman named Kalawati was found dead in a sugarcane field in Pradapur village. She had no enemies, and nothing in her life suggested a motive. Before police could find any leads, another body was found on June 19. This time, 50-year-old Danwadi was discovered near a road in Kolsa village. Like Kalawati, she had no conflicts with anyone, and the police could not find any connection between the cases. At the end of June, a third victim, 55-year-old Premvati, was found in Anandpur village. Premvati had been strangled with her own sari, which was tied tightly around her neck with a knot on the side. This killing method was different from the earlier ones, but it showed a clear pattern. Within 1 month, 3 murders had taken place, and police struggled to gather any evidence. The killings continued. On July 22nd, Kusuma, a woman in Kajuria village, was killed the same way as Premvati. Soon after, Veerawati's body was found in Jwalapur village. The murders were happening in different areas, making it very difficult for police to track the killer. Villagers became terrified, unsure who would be next. After a break of a few months, the murders started again on October 31st, 2023. 65-year-old Mahmoud was found strangled in a sugarcane field in Lakhimpur village. His scarf was tied tightly around his neck in the same style as previous victims. On November 20th, Dularo Devi was killed in Rosni village, and on November 26, 63-year-old Urmila was found dead in Jagdishpur. By this time, police realized that all victims were women over 45, mostly alone in fields, and killed by strangulation using their own clothing. The police made several arrests, but the murders continued, showing that the arrested men were innocent. The breakthrough came on July 2, 2024, when Anita Devi, returning home from her parents' house, disappeared. Her body was found later, and the police realized they were dealing with a single serial killer who had been active for over a year, committing 9 murders in total. The killer was eventually identified as Kuldeep Kumar Gangu from Nawabganj village in Bareilly. Kuldeep had a troubled childhood. His father remarried, and Kuldeep hated his stepmother. He was mentally unstable from a young age and could not speak clearly. His anger toward women grew after his own wife left him in 2018. Kuldeep would wander from village to village on foot, observing women in fields. When he approached women and they refused his advances, he would kill them, usually in sugarcane fields because the tall crops hid his actions. He sometimes took personal items from victims as trophies, such as jewelry or clothes. He confessed to 6 of the 9 murders, and police recovered many of the victims' belongings from him. Despite his terrifying crimes, villagers found it hard to believe he was capable of such violence. He seemed weak, mentally unstable, and afraid of children, yet he carried out murders with careful planning and a clear pattern. Bondi Junction stabbings. On April 13, 2014, a terrible event happened at Bondi Junction Shopping Centre in New South Wales, Australia. A 40-year-old man named Joel Cucci went on a knife attack. He killed 6 people and injured 12 others, including a 9-month-old baby. 5 women and 1 man died. The man who died was a security guard trying to protect others. That Saturday afternoon, around 3:10 p.m., Joel entered Westfield Bondi Junction wearing a green sports jersey. He left for a short time and came back with a large knife, about 12 inches long. He acted strangely and started attacking shoppers. Some people tried to stop him, while others ran and hid. 5 women were killed on the spot. The security guard died while trying to protect people. 12 others were seriously hurt and taken to the hospital. Among them was a 9-month-old baby, whose mother had also been killed. The attack ended when a lone police officer named Amy Scott confronted Joel on the 5th floor of the building. He lunged at her with the knife, and she shot him in the chest. She tried to save him by performing CPR, but he died. Emergency services arrived quickly, and the building was evacuated. Public transportation in the area was also rerouted. Joel Cucci was from Queensland and had moved to Sydney about a month before the attack. His family recognized him on the news and contacted the police. He was effectively homeless and sometimes advertised himself as a male escort on social media. He enjoyed surfing, but also had serious mental health problems. He had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and had recently stopped taking his medication. His parents said he had a fascination with knives. His father described him as a tormented soul. The investigation is still ongoing, and Joel's exact reasons for attacking people are not yet known. His family and those who knew him describe him as a troubled and frustrated man who had a lot of pain inside. Joliet shootings. In Joliet, Illinois, a mass shooting shocked the community. A young man named Romeo Nance, 23 years old, is accused of killing 8 people and injuring 1 more. Most of the victims were his family members, and some were as young as 14. This crime is considered one of the worst the local police have seen in nearly 30 years. The shooting began at 2 homes that were across the street from each other. In the first home, police found 4 people dead. Across the street, 2 more bodies were found. A 43-year-old man was shot in the leg but survived. The final victim, Toyosi Baker, 28, was a stranger who was shopping when he was shot. After the shootings, Romeo Nance drove all the way to Texas. Police later found that he had killed himself there. Before leaving Joliet, he also shot a 42-year-old man 9 times at a gas station while the man was carrying groceries. Thankfully, the man survived because none of the shots hit vital organs. Nance was driving a red Toyota Camry during the attack, and surveillance cameras captured him at the scene. Investigators discovered that Nance had a long criminal history. In January 2023, he fired a gun at a woman in a car but did not hit her. He was arrested for aggravated battery, reckless use of a weapon, and obstruction after trying to run from the police. Later that month, he broke the glass of his jail cell and was charged with damaging government property. In February, he faced another minor charge of battery. He was released from jail in March 2023 after his sister posted a small part of his bail. Nance's girlfriend, Kylie Cleveland Singleton, was also involved. She is the mother of his 3-year-old son. In March 2023, she provided $10,000 to bail him out of jail. She was later charged with obstructing justice after lying to authorities about her relationship with Nance, pretending to be his sister in official records. The motive behind the shootings remains unknown. Police have not determined why Nance targeted his family and strangers. Some experts suggest that his criminal activity and past behavior may have caused conflict with family members. Others speculate that he may have been struggling with mental health issues. No one alive can clearly explain his reasons, and police may only learn more through his phone or other records. The shootings left a community in shock and mourning. 8 people were killed and 1 survived. The Easey Street murders. Collingwood, a suburb of Melbourne, Australia, is known for its old factories, lively art scene, and trendy cafes. Once a working-class area, it has changed a lot over the years. But behind its modern vibe lies a dark story: the Easey Street murders of 1977. This crime shocked Melbourne and remained one of Australia's most chilling, unsolved cases for decades. Suzanne Armstrong and Susan Bartlett were close friends from a small town in northern Victoria. In October 1976, they moved together to Melbourne, renting a terrace house at 147 Easey Street in Collingwood. Both women loved nature, flowers, and people. Suzanne, 28, was a single mother to 16-month-old Gregory. She had lived in Greece for a while, where Gregory was born. Described as bubbly and friendly, Suzanne worked part-time cleaning at a doctor's office to supplement her pension. Susan, 27, was a school teacher at the Collingwood Education Centre. She loved music and crafts and had a creative, caring personality. Her brother, Martin Bartlett, remembered her as happy and excited about life, especially after moving to Easey Street. By January 1977, the 2 women were well-liked in their neighborhood. Their home was warm and welcoming, often filled with friends and family. Locals even called them the 2 Sus because of their similar names. On the evening of January 10, 1977, Susan's brother Martin and his girlfriend visited the house for dinner. They left around 9:30 p.m., and both women were watching TV. This was the last time anyone saw Suzanne and Susan alive. Over the next few days, neighbors grew worried. Suzanne's baby Gregory was left crying, and the family's puppy wandered the streets alone. On January 13th, a neighbor named Alona Stevens entered the house through an unlocked back door. She found Gregory safe but dehydrated. Tragically, the bodies of Suzanne and Susan were also discovered inside. Suzanne was found in her bedroom, mostly unclothed, stabbed 27 times, and assaulted. Susan was lying near the front door, fully clothed but stabbed 55 times. with cuts on her hands and arms showing she had tried to defend herself. Blood smears suggested she had tried to escape but collapsed before she could get away. There were signs the killer tried to clean up before leaving. A blood-soaked towel was later found a few hundred meters away. Police found no clear motive, and there were no signs of forced entry, as leaving doors unlocked was common in Collingwood at the time. Despite extensive forensic work, the case went cold. Over the years, police investigated 13 suspects, collected DNA samples, and even offered a $50,000 reward, but no one was arrested. The case was reopened in 2011, and in 2017, a $1 million reward was offered. Advances in DNA technology finally helped police. On September 19, 2024, 65-year-old Perry Karamblis, an Australian-Greek national, was arrested in Rome, Italy. DNA from the crime scene linked him to the murders. Karamblis had been a student at the school where Susan worked. He was extradited to Australia in December 2024 to face charges of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of assault. The families of Suzanne and Susan expressed relief and hope after decades of waiting. Suzanne's sister, Gail Armstrong, who had adopted Gregory, said she felt both scared and happy, praising the detectives for their work. Perry Karamblis remains in custody awaiting trial, while more DNA testing is carried out. After nearly 50 years, there is finally hope that justice will be served, and the memories of Suzanne and Susan will not be forgotten. Danbury kidnapping. 6 men kidnapped a couple who were driving a Lamborghini Urus while looking at houses. The incident was connected to a huge cryptocurrency theft worth over $230 million, which involved the couple's son. Police received calls from witnesses around 6 p.m. on August 25th. They saw 6 men wearing dark clothes force the couple into the back of a white van after crashing into their Lamborghini from behind. Police chased the van, which crashed about a mile later. The suspects jumped out and ran, but 4 of them were arrested shortly after. The couple was rescued from the van. They were tied up with duct tape around their arms and legs. The man had head injuries from being punched and hit with a bat. According to police reports, the couple described how a Honda Civic rear-ended them and then a van cut them off. The men forced the couple into the van and beat the man when he tried to resist. During the chase, one of the suspects yelled that they were in deep trouble and told the driver to speed up. The 4 men arrested were Angel Barrero, 23, Jose Alberto Romero, 26, Reynaldo Diaz, 20, and Anthony Pina, 23. 2 other men, Michael Rivas, 18, and Ricardo Estrada, 21, were later tracked to a rented house in Roxbury. Police also recovered the stolen Lamborghini and the woman's wallet. The suspects, all from Florida, faced federal and state charges including kidnapping, carjacking, and conspiracy. Investigators later found that Barrero was the leader. He planned the crime and paid for all 6 men to fly from Florida to New York. Police also discovered a group chat showing that the suspects planned more crimes. Video footage showed the men watching the couple outside their home before their house hunting trip. In September, federal prosecutors in Washington, D.C. announced the arrest of 20-year-old Malone Lamb from Miami and 21-year-old Janda Serrano from Los Angeles. They were charged with conspiracy to steal and launder more than $230 million in cryptocurrency. Prosecutors said Lamb, Serrano, and their co-conspirators gained access to victims' cryptocurrency accounts and transferred funds to themselves. They used various methods to hide their identities, including moving money through exchanges, using virtual private networks, and mixing funds through different accounts. The suspects spent the stolen money on expensive items like plane tickets, nightclubs, and designer handbags. Authorities also believed the couple was targeted because of their son's involvement in the cryptocurrency scheme. The son had previously been the victim of swatting incidents linked to his gaming activities. Police wanted to interview him, but the FBI told them to step back due to an ongoing investigation into the crypto theft. This case is really 2 connected stories happening at the same time. The kidnapping in Danbury was not some random attack. It was part of a much bigger plan linked to a massive $230 million cryptocurrency theft. The 6 men who grabbed the couple were working on the street-level part of the crime, while other suspects across the country were handling the online hacking and money laundering. The couple was targeted only because of their son's involvement in that larger investigation. So while the arrests happened in different places, and the suspects were involved in different roles, they were all connected by the same bigger criminal network. This is why the case feels huge and complicated, but once you connect the pieces, the picture becomes clear.